Good evening, all of you. Good evening, Teja. So, good evening. Good evening. So, can also convert this entire 30-day of course as an internship also. So, can also convert this entire 30-day of course as an internship also. So, we're going to provide the internship certificate also, as well as we're going to provide the uh, 30-day of certificate, e-certificate. Okay, anyway, we're going to start the session. So before I want to start this session, let us see what you have discussed in day 3. So in day 3, I'm going to discuss about why you're going to use a C programming and what are the limitations of C programming and what is the structure of a C programming and what are the programming rules and how we're going to execute the C programming. And after that, we're going to discuss in day 3 class about difference between compiler and interpreters. So these are the topics discussed in day 3. So now it is day 4. We will going to start for discussing about today about character sets, delimiters, and after that we will go and discuss about tokens. So what is a character set? So the characters in C are classified in the following categories. So that means that it may contain letters, it may contain digits, white space, and special characters. So the character sets are classified in the following categories. So letters, digits, white space, and special characters. So the letters called as a small a to small z or capital A to capital Z, and the digits all decimal digits from 0 to 9, and white space, so it will be a blank space or horizontal tab spaces or vertical tab spaces or a new line and form feeds. So all will be comes under white spaces and special characters. So the special characters will be like comma, dot operator, semicolon, apostrophe, double quotes, exclamator marks, and vertical bars, backslash, tilde symbol, underscore, dollar, question mark, ampersand, and a star, asterisk, plus, minus, less than, all will be comes under special characters. So what are the special characters you are going to seen in the keyboard, that all will be comes under special characters of a character sets. So these are the four categories of a character sets: letters, digits, white space, and special characters. So second one is a delimiters. So what is a delimiters? So the special kind of symbols, which will be used in our programming is called as a delimiters. So for example, colon, so can use a colon or semicolon or parenthesis or square brackets or curly brackets or hash or comma. So these are all special kind of symbols which we will be going to use it in our programming. So these all special kind of symbols can be called as a delimiters. And coming into tokens, so what is a token? So the small individual units in a C program are called tokens. So for example, I want to open my Turbo C plus plus. and I want to open. So for example, okay, so anyway, so let us see what is a token here. So for example, while writing of a program, you are using hash. So hash is a token, and include is a token, and you are using right angular brackets and left angular brackets. So all will be comes under tokens. So the small individual units of C programming are called as a tokens in C programming. So here I said that your entire C programming so is a group of characters as called as a tokens. So the group of characters we are using for writing of a C program, that all group of characters can be called as a tokens. So that these all group of characters can be converted, can be translated to source code. So that means translate the all tokens to target code. So that will be called as a tokens. So the small individual units of a C programming are called as a tokens. Now let us see what are the different types of tokens here in C programming. So identifiers and keywords and constants and string literals and data types and variables, operators and special symbols. So all these will be comes under different types of tokens in C programming. Now let us discuss about one by one. So let us see first one, identifiers. So what is an identifier? So identifier refers to the names of the variables. So why it will be refers to the names of the variables? So for example, while writing of my program, I'm going to write, for example, count. So I'm going to write int count. So then the count can be called as a identifiers. So whenever I'm going to initialize count is equal to 0 or count is equal to 5. So then the identifier can become as a variables. So that means that while declaring of the name, so while declaring of the name in programming, so that name can be called as a identifiers. So whenever you are going to assign value to that identifier, then the identifier will become as a variables. That means that if you declare the name in C programming, so it does not going to allocate memory for that identifiers. So whenever you are going to assign some value to that identifiers, so then that value will be stored into the memory, computer memory. So that's why so the name can be called as a identifiers, whereas is equal to 5, count is equal to 5, so that can be called as a variables. So that's why here identifier refers to the names of the variables. So identifiers refers to the names of the variables, functions as well as arrays. So why? Because you are using names in functions and array name in for writing of a arrays. So these all names can be called as a identifiers. So when the identifier will become as a variable, whenever you are going to assign value to that identifier, then the identifier will become as a variables. So next one, there are user defined names. So can write a user defined names and consisting of a sequence of letters, digits with the letters as a first character. So in C programming for writing of identifiers, so we're going to use different types of letters, digits and as well as first character. So we'll go and write the identifier as a first one as a character type. For example, I'm writing here count. So C is a character. So the first letter is a character type. So whereas here I'm using in a second identifier test and followed by number. So it is also a valid identifier. Why? Because according to the rules of identifiers, so the first character must be a uh, digits. Sorry, it is a character. So after that we'll be going to use numbers, and after that we'll going to use underscore symbols also. So these are the rules for writing of identifiers. So as I said that the first character must be an alphabet. So in this example, C is a character, and T is a character, and H is a character. So according to the first rule, identifiers must be first character must be an alphabet. So it is a valid identifier, and just 1 2 3 is a valid identifier, and high underscore balance is a valid identifier. Now coming to second rule, so must consist of only letters, digits or underscores. So the identifier must be consist of a letters, like from A to Z. So it consists of A to Z, as well as it consists of a digits also. So here I am writing a digit 2 3 and a underscore symbol. So for writing of for combining of two words, then I will go to use underscore symbol. For example, high underscore balance. So my identifier will be include letters, digits, and underscore symbols also. So and the third one is one of the important rule for writing of identifier is that so cannot use as a keywords. So we don't use keywords in C programming. What are the keywords we are going to use in a C programming? That keywords cannot be written as a identifiers. For example, while. So while you're not going to use it as a identifiers, or if, or else, or for, that type of words cannot be used as a identifiers. Why? Because the words is belongs to keywords in C programming. So that's why cannot use a keywords in C programming as a identifiers. And last one is most not contain white spaces. So one more important point is that so while writing of identifiers, you don't provide spaces. You don't write spaces between the characters. You don't write spaces between the characters. So that is called must not contain white spaces. The identifier must not provide any white spaces. For example, if you want to provide any white space, then will be use underscore symbol. So these are the four rules for writing of a identifiers. So here I am giving example. Count is a valid identifier, and test 1 2 3 is a valid identifier, and high balance is a valid identifier. And coming to second one, keyword. So what is a keyword? For example, keyword have a predefined meaning, and this meaning cannot be changed. For example, let us take internet. So internet, so that is a internet word is a that meaning have some meaning, and these meaning cannot be changed. And similarly every key in C programming, so every keys have a some predefined meaning, and that meaning cannot be going to change. So that is called as a keywords. So in a C programming language, so all keywords must be write in lowercase letters only. So for example, here I am writing there are 32 keywords in C programming. So the 32 keywords all will be write in uh, lowercase only. So that means we'll be going to use all 32 keywords as a lowercase letters only. So what is a keyword? So keyword have a predefined meaning, and this meaning cannot be going to change. So that is called as a keywords. And one more thing is called uh, so the in a C language it has only 32 keywords. So that's why C programming is a very simple to learn. So whereas in while compared with Python, so it's have a lot of keywords. So that's why when compared to C programming language, Python it will be little bit hard to learn. So why? Because the C programming having only 32 keywords. If you are thorough with the 32 keywords, then you will be become a good programmer. So and the third one is variables. So what is a variable? As I said that identifier names refers to the names of the variables. So whereas a variable names is an identifier. So I said that in while discussing about the identifiers. So identifier, what is the difference between identifier and variables? So for example, if you declare a identifier in our program, so that will be called as a identifiers. For example, I declared a. For example, I declared in my program int a. So then a is called as a identifiers. So whenever I assign value to that a value, so then identifier will become as a variables. So that's why here I mentioned identifier refers to the variables, whereas a variable names is an identifiers. So that means that identifiers cannot be going to store into the memory location, whereas variables which will going to assign some value to that variables. So that's why that value will be going to store into the memory location. So that is only the difference between identifiers and variables. I hope we will be understanding what I am saying. So I will repeat once again. For example, I am going to write int a. So a is a identifier, and whenever I'm going to assign value to that a value, so then the a will become as a variables. So that means that the value of a which will go to store into the memory location. So that is the difference between variables and identifiers. And one more important thing is in C programming, a variable can have only one value assigned to it at any given time during the execution of the program. So for example, we'll assign int a is equal to 5. For first time, I'm assigning int a is equal to 5, and later I'm going to assign another value for a value. A is equal to 6. So later I will going to assign a is equal to 7. So now what is the value of a? So the value of a will be 7 only. So that means that what is the value I'm going to assign first, that is a is equal to 5, that will be going to store into the memory. So later I'm going to reassign a is equal to 6. Then the 5 will be replaced as a 6, that will be stored into the memory. So later I'm going to assign a is equal to 7. So then the 6 will be going to replace to 7. So that means that what I'm saying means that variable can hold only one value at a time at the time of execution of the program. So if you try to assign more than one value to the variable, it cannot store more than one value into the memory location. So what is the value you are going to assign to the variable as a last value? That value will be only stored into the memory location. So that is only the for variables. And coming into types of variables, so we have a different types of variables in C programming, like local variables, global variables, and formal variables. Let us see what is the local variables, global variables, and formal variables. So local variables. So what is the local variables? So as I said that in while discussing about the structure of a C programming, you can declare the variables inside the main function, as well as you can declare the variables outside the main function also. So if you are try to declare the variables in outside of the main function, so then it will become under global variables. So if you are trying to initialize, if you are trying to declare variables inside of the main function, then it will be called as a local variables. So for example, here I mentioned function. So that is a function 1, and I'm going to declare variable int x, and after that I'm going to assign x is equal to 10. So here these variable x variable can be called as a local variables. So why? Because I'm going to declare the variable inside of my function. So that's why that variable can be called as a local variables. So are you understanding what I'm saying? So if you are declare the variables inside of the function, so then the variable can be called as a local variables. So for example, if you are declared the variables inside of the this block or inside of the this function, so then the lifetime of this local variables will be within this block only. So that means that once the program execution will be comes after this closing curly brackets, so then the lifetime of variable x will be going to expire. So that means that the scope of the local variables within the this block only. So whenever the compiler is going to execute after the closing curly brackets, then the lifetime of the variable, that is x variable, is going to expire. So that means that the scope of the local variables within the block only. So that is a local variables. And coming to global variables, so if you declare the variables outside of the function, so if you declare the variables outside of the function, then the variable is called as a global variables. So if you declare the variables as a outside of the function, so then the scope of this variable will be entire of the program execution. So the lifetime will be entire of the program execution. So whenever the program is going to complete it successfully, then the lifetime will be going to expire. So whereas in local variables, the scope will be within this block only. Whenever the block will be coming outside, then the, then the lifetime of this x variable is going to expire. So that is for local variables, and this is for global variables. So global variables, the lifetime of global variables entire of the program execution. So whenever the program is completed, then only the lifetime of variable x is going to expire. So that is about global variables. And coming to next one, formal parameters. So what is a formal parameters? So that means that if I pass arguments inside of the function. So for example, I'm taking a function name is add followed by int y. So this variable is called as a formal parameters. So these variables can be going to write in call function. So yesterday I given some topic about what is a calling and what is a call function. So in a calling function, it will be terminated by semicolon. So the calling function does not have any body. So that function is called as a calling function. So if the function contain any body, so then the function is called call function. So in this example, this add function contain body, so body of the add function. So that's why this will becomes under call function. So inside of this call function, you can pass arguments. So what are the arguments we are going to pass inside of this call function? That arguments can be called as a formal parameters, and these formal parameters called duplicate values. So duplicate values for the calling function. So what are the arguments you are going to pass inside of a calling function? So that arguments called as a virginal arguments. So for that virginal arguments, we are going to pass some duplicate arguments inside of the call function. So that means that the call function, we are passing duplicate arguments which will be related to the calling function. So here what I am saying means that what are the variables we are going to pass inside of the function. That variables or that parameters can be called as a formal parameters or formal arguments. So this is an example for formal parameters or formal arguments. Now coming into constant and volatile variables. So what is a constant variable and what is a volatile variables? So constant, for example, pi value 3.14. So that value is a constant value. So like that we have different types of constant values in mathematics. So in a C programming also, if you want write value in our program as a constant value, then you can use this keyword const constant. So before the data type name, you have to write const keyword. So const is a keyword. So that keyword can be right before the writing of the data type name. So this is a data type name integer I'm taken. So before this integer I'm writing the keyword const. Then here I'm writing a variable m is equal to 10. So this value of m, that is a 10, is constant. So that value cannot be going to change at the time of execution of the program. So if you are trying to provide some other value, it cannot be going to change. So that means the value of m will be constant only. So that cannot be going to change at the time of execution of the program. So that is called constant variable. Second one is a volatile variable. So that is it will be just opposite to the constant variables. That is called, will be going to use a keyword volatile. So volatile and followed by data type name and followed by D. So that means that the value of variables that are changed at any time. So whereas in once you can write the keyword const constant keyword, the value of 10, that cannot be going to change. So cannot going to change the m value at the time of execution of the program. So whereas in if you are writing a keyword volatile, so then you can change the value of the like a d value at any time. That is a compilation time or execution time, you can change that value. So that is about constant and volatile variables. And the next one is constants. So what is a constant? So constant, as I said, that it refers to fixed value. So that value cannot be going to change at the time of execution of the program. So that is called as a constant. So in the C programming language, we have two types of constants, like numerical constants and character constants. So what is the numerical constants? So the numerical constants will be comes under integer constants and real constants. And the character constants will be comes under single character constants and string constants. So for example, in a numerical constants, what are the integer constants? So in integer constants, it contain only integer part. So it contain only integer part. So that is called that will be called as a integer constant, whereas in a real constant it contain both integer part as well as fractional part. So that will be called as a real constants. So whereas in character constants, it can be classified into two types: single character constant and string constants. So in a single character constant can be write characters in single quotes. So whereas in string constants can be write in double quotes. So that is only the difference here. So let us see individually. So as I said that integer constant, so it contain only decimal part. It contain a sequence of digits without a decimal point. For example, 10, 20, plus 30 or minus 15. So these numbers are digits does not contain any decimal points. So these values are these digits can be called as a integer constants. Now coming to real constants, so it contain floating point constants. So that means that real numbers having a decimal point. So for example, 0.246. So the number contain integer value as well as decimal points also. So that will be comes under real constants. And character constants, single character constants and string constants. So in a single character constants, you can write the characters in between single quotes. For example, a and number a. So I'm going to write the number in a single quotes. So then again this number will be also treated as a character only. So these are the some of the escape sequence characters, like slash a, slash b, slash f, slash n, slash r, slash t, that is a tab space, vertical tab space, and null character, and backslash, and a slash and a question mark. So these all will be escape sequence characters. So these all will be a special character constants. So these all will be going to used in our program. And second one, string constants. So a string constant is a sequence of 0 or more characters enclosed in double quotes. So the string constants, like what is a string? It is a collection of characters. So the collection of characters can be going to enclosed in between double quotes. So uh, then the declaration. For example, here I'm writing welcome to hello world in double quotes. So this type of string can be called as a string constants or string literals. So similarly, what is the difference between single character constants and string constants? So the difference between a single character constant and a string constant is that in single character constant, which will going to occupy 1 byte. So that means the characters can be enclosed in single quotes. So like it is a character data type. So this character data type is going to occupy only 1 byte of memory. So second one is string constants. So the entire strings will be going to write in between double quotes. So the string entire word is going to enclosed in double quotes. For example, welcome to hello world. So this entire string I'm going to write in double quotes. So that's why it is called as a string constants. Then what is the difference between a single character and string constants? So the difference is that in a single character constants, it does not have any extra byte for storing the characters in memory. So whereas in string constants, it requires one more byte for storing of a null characters. Okay, that is the only difference here, single and double characters. So I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So in single character constants, it will go to occupy only 1 byte for storing of a characters in the memory. So whereas in for storing of a string constant like welcome to hello world, so then it will be required one more byte for storing of a null characters. So that means that the string constants is going to ended with the null characters. So whereas in a single character constant does not ended with the null characters. So that's why in while declaring of strings in our C programming, you need to specify uh, extra space for storing of a null characters. For example, if you are not specifying extra space for null characters, then it will then your entire string it cannot going to print. So even though the entire string is going to print, at the end of string it will going to print some garbage characters. So for avoiding that garbage printing of garbage characters in a string constants, so we'll going to provide one more space for storing of a null characters. So that is the only difference here, single character constant and string constants. So that's all about today. Then tomorrow class we'll go and discuss about what are the different types of data types in C programming. So that's all about today. And if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box so that we'll go to answer for your queries. So if you have any queries, you can post it into the chat box. So if you have any query, please be post in the chat box. So I will go and try to uh, will go and try to answer for your queries. So are you understanding this session today? What I have discussed day 4. If you are understanding, please give a response yes. So if you don't have any queries, that's all about today's session, and we will go and meet the next session. So I will be post the attendance link in a WhatsApp group. So that's all about today class. And if you don't have any doubts, so you can leave this session. Thank you.